compared to ASEAN, which is doing a much better role of integrating economically as a trade hub. But at the same time, there are products like rice, which really are traded extensively, which is a main, product or commodity, which has really a high value movement in economic terms across the region. So for us, it was important to understand the rice trade, one, from the political economy angle, but also from the food security angle, to see how it impacts on food. And thirdly, also from the angle of what does the production of rice at the scale that we are doing also have to do with climate change and water usage and water export. So it had all these multiple layers through which we tried to look at. So today you're going to really be getting a glimpse from two presenters, Afaq, who will be presenting the briefs report on the political economy of rice trade between India, Nepal and Bangladesh, where there's going to be a presentation on the specifics of the trade itself, the operational issues. What are the bottlenecks, what are the challenges, what are the production challenges, what are the transportation and what are the pricing challenges, and where are the opportunities. And clearly, as he said, for this one we looked at the non-basmati sector, not to say that the basmati rice sector is not an important sector, it is just that this seemed a more highly consumed commodity for a large section of the less economically privileged groups across the region.
Lots of ups and downs, there's a lot of political intrigue, and there's a lot of opacity because it's not really clear what's driving rice volumes up or down at any given point of time, right? This study also began exactly at the moment the government increased its minimum support prices by 13% last year, right? And immediately all the newspapers had these headlines where rice exporters from across the country were saying, oh listen, you've increased MSPs by 13%, that makes us uncompetitive in global markets. And to India as a country, that's an extremely important thing because we are the largest exporter of rice in the world. Here, Nepal, that 5% decrease is essentially the blockade that's transmitting into trade volumes. The blockade from that here, right? And now let's flip it and let's go to 2017, 2018. And this is again, globally, India registers a 28% increase in exports. This is data from all 140 countries. 95% of the increase is coming from Bangladesh, right? 17% is coming from Sri Lanka. And, sort of marginal 2% is coming from Nepal. So what happened in Bangladesh that year? 3 back-to-back floods, unseasonal floods hit Bangladesh. All of a sudden, a country that was more or less independent in rice production, satisfying its own demand, had to turn to international markets. It procured a lot from Thailand and it procured a lot from India that year, right? So this is essentially, again, the climate factor sort of making its way into export volumes. Sri Lanka again goes through another drought, right? So what is the Indian rice market basically doing? It's stabilizing supply and demand across South Asia because it is such a vast geographic region that it has climate stability across various regions that allows it to stabilize the rice markets in its neighbors.
It is an important player in South Asia as far as agricultural exports is concerned. Nepal, the production has been increasing, but their self-sufficiency ratio, which is dependency on imports, and when I say dependency on imports, it is primarily on India. I think 95 to 99% of their imports are from India when it comes to rice. So, which is primarily managed through UP and Bihar. 60% from UP, 40% from Bihar, few percentiles here and there, but that's how the picture looks when it comes to exports into Nepal. But yes, their yield has been on a decreasing side. The growth rate of yield, the actual yield has been increasing, but the growth rate of their yield has been not in positive. So this was just a quick background, and now I'll come to the supply chain. In India, we have two types of procurements. We have a public procurement system and we have a private procurement system. Public procurement is the one which looks after the public distribution system, which goes into the Food Corporation of India. Then it is distributed to the country, to the population, through various ration shops and other fair price shops, and also government to government exports. Work on do the milling. So another point to be highlighted here as far as milling is concerned, I know Mr. Chaudhary is here, he will talk about it in more detail, but the issue that comes here is the output ratio in milling. Output ratio is for 100 kg of paddy, how much rice you get. And Government of India has given a standard of 68%. 68 or 67?
67 raw, 68 boiled.
Yeah, so 67 or 68%. But unfortunately, given the smaller land holdings and different types of soils that we have across India, different types of environment, different practices, agricultural practices, this 67 or 68% is not maintained.
When exports started in boom in last year, Bangladesh huge quantity purchased from West Bengal, drastically reduced in this year to introduced by the Bangladesh government 28% duty imposed due to the election, and that is their political compulsion to protect their cultivators. Say 5%, 10%, it should be 10% so that exporters can come forward and they will get the better chance and they will get at the better price and they can compete globalization, because 1750 is now the problem for the price factor. If you are purchasing 1750, the price is too much high, international market is no buyer. If I am going South Africa, not interested, and Bangladesh itself is not possible because 28% duty is there. Therefore, if industry is not run viably, cultivators will not get the better price. Government, how much government will buy? They are only to maintain the PTS system, Food Security Act. That is a very minimum quantity. As far as the West Bengal is concerned, our production is 200 to 212 lakh ton हम पैडी प्रोक्योर करता है, तो उते they will purchase only 52 lakhs. Then what rest 160 lakh tons paddy, what will be the fate? That will go in the private channel. Then that private channel price they cannot give the better price because the export price is not there. Internal market of the country, we are selling Delhi, we are selling Rajasthan, but the transport and logistic cost is too much high. We are selling Assam, but it is not profitable.
Because, I look at MSP and this issue, if we connect it, what was said that 68%, Mr. Afak, you said 68% is the conversion ratio, and the cost gets, trickles down to the cultivator. That's what was said. So if you look at MSP now, so what is the effective MSP burden on the cultivator? Which is 1750 plus 32%. So look at it from that point of view, and he doesn't get anything because the middleman in the supply chain, there are so many players. And let me, if I calculate the general way of calculating the export pricing, so you double the MSP, for example, the basic cost. It's 35,000 rupees to a ton at the present MSP.
Delicate balance is very, very important for any political or the ruling party who are in power in any point of time. But what happens that usually we produce around 5 crore tons, metric ton rice, and our usual demand is just a little more than that, that is 5.2 crore 5.2 crore metric ton. So as Afak during his presentation mentioned that flood is the main reasons actually why there is some fluctuations in the production of rice. So when there is a flood, so we need to import rice, and usually we import rice from India, Cambodia and Vietnam, and among these three countries of course we import majority of rice from India. because we are surrounded by all three areas, all three borders by India, and also having the excellent relationship between India and Bangladesh. We always prefer to bring rice from India.
You are not even connected with that. I said, why do we sell the pesticide-ridden basmati to Indians also? Why don't we completely ban this pesticide? We should also not sell poisonous rice to Indians. What about exports? I think the exporters in Europe opened their eyes and we thought this is the right time to strike and go to the ground level, go to the fields, go to the farmers and educate them. And Secretary Commerce will appreciate that during the month of July, August, October, even at the age of 70, I visited every corner of Punjab wherever basmati was produced. And we were very fortunate. The farmers were listening to us. They understood that this industry is facing a very serious crisis and they backed us efforts. So they backed our efforts and our teams were fanning around all over Punjab. We covered most of the area where basmati is produced. That's the Amritsar belt, Tarantaran belt, Gurdaspur, Pathankot. We also covered some parts of Abhor, Fazilka, Muktsar and all that. But we got very good response. I'm very positive that this first initiative by the exporters themselves, we have generated awareness 20%, I would claim 20%, but the people say 50%, but it's 20%. I'm still very happy that we have achieved the results in a very short period of time.
Mr. Sethi mentioned something, I'll just give a little prelude to that. Actually, this emanated out of a state visit which we made earlier this month to Punjab. Now, Punjab's major export commodity is rice. Basmati rice is almost 3/4 of it, or 4/5 of it. As he was mentioning, more and more countries are adopting SPS measures on rice, which are going to become difficult. We started with EU and US. EU has been constantly giving alerts on pesticides. This year, in 2018, we had 11 alerts, 4 of it from Punjab. We've had alerts, 18 alerts in the previous year. Now, what happens in the use of pesticide or insecticide is that these markets have different MRL levels. There are certain pesticides where the value in US market is 10 times the value MRL given in the European market. The challenge comes in how to have rice segregated by use of pesticide. How to educate the farmer on what is acceptable in which market. I'm sure the millers would find it a challenge. But there's a need to move on and try to address this issue because this will become the main barrier to rice exports, not tariffs, I repeat. If we are able to address this issue, we will be at least able to maintain our traditional markets in basmati, which are very paying today. I think I'm very happy that after the meeting, APIDA came back and did this, and I'm sure that they'll try to find solutions to look at it. Second was incentives, which was also spoken by Mr. Chaudhary. I totally agree. You must have known that recently non-basmati was given an MEIS incentive. Please understand that the resources of the government are limited. It's like IT. IT is one of our strongest exports and services, but unfortunately we are not able to provide an incentive because it would be so huge that it would consume all the resources in just one item. So there has to be a balance. And that balance comes out of looking at priorities. There is a time when we were looking at markets for non-basmati. We are not saying that basmati does not deserve this, but perhaps there are more competing and compelling demands. And as you know that this has to be done more so on the basis of stakeholder consultations, more so on the basis of where the assets can be most productively used, where the incentives can give us the maximum yield.